Hello there. Welcome back, everybody, to Saber Comics, your place for all things review. I hope you're having a great Friday and you are enjoying your about-to-be Thanksgiving vacation. I want to go ahead and start off by saying welcome, everyone, to my first impressions of Animaniacs 2020. Yes, finally, after waiting 22 years, plus 2 years when it was announced, the show has come back in a brand new look and feel thanks to Hulu for giving it a 2-season revival. And I also want to go ahead and give a huge thank you to the official Animaniacs Twitter account for hosting a watch party of the first episode, which is how I and a lot of other people got to see it early before it dropped entirely on Hulu itself. So if you do have a Hulu account, this is how you can watch it. It is the only way I would recommend you watch it. Or if you're not down for that and you just want to hear someone's thoughts and reviews on how it is to kind of hook you before you give it a watch, well then I'm happy you chose me, because I gotta tell you first and foremost, guys, this has been on my radar for the past 2 years, and it's the one thing that I have been looking forward to in this god-awful, terrible year that is 2020. We've gone through a lot, my friends, but now finally we're coming close to the end, and this is by far one of the great ways to end this horrible decade. So, let's just go ahead and waste no more time in talking about this episode and the expectations it has, because I gotta tell you, everybody has been wanting this show to be just as good as its original, despite the fact that, unfortunately, none of the original writers were asked back to collaborate or even write episodes of this new iteration. Instead, it is an entirely new team altogether. Now, that may put you off, knowing that none of the original writers were asked back, and some have even boycotted the series because of this, which I find completely stupid and asinine, because how are you going to judge something by just listening to what these people said? I do not believe in that, and I think for those of you that are watching this, you should give this new series the benefit of the doubt. You should give it a watch to further conclude on whether or not you hate it or you like it. In this instance, I loved it. Everything from beginning to end was so nostalgic. Seeing these characters come back and acknowledging that it has been a long time since we last saw them, and then realizing that times have changed. We have gone through a lot since then, particularly in the ways of the political era and the uprise of social media, reboots, and just so much crazy stuff. And I think that's the best part about this first episode, is them having to acclimate themselves with the year 2020 and so many things. There were, of course, songs dedicated to this, there were jokes dedicated to this, and Pinky and the Brain actually have a huge play in the year 2020, instead of them being isolated as well with the Animaniacs. No, they actually have been here this whole time, and there are some things that they did that kind of make sense with their characters in this new world. I won't spoil it, but let's just say I would have never thought to have Brain and the internet coexist with one another. And I mean that in a lot of ways. You guys are just going to love it. So, right away, I loved how the humor has somewhat evolved since the last time. As I said, we have a bunch of new writers handling the writing for this show, and with that comes a sort of familiar but new tone. And thankfully, it doesn't overlap with each other, which is what I was really excited about when watching this first episode from beginning to end. All of the jokes hit. There is some slapstick, but not a lot. The first opening lines between Wacko and Yakko and Dot were just so funny, I legitimately could not stop laughing. The jokes, especially with the internet involving Pinky and the Brain, also were burst out laughing material because of just how they use it to take over the world and how there are some legitimate surprises and, of course, some predictable moments as it comes to an end. I also love the animation. Again, they pretty much say it themselves that it is now completely widescreen, there's vector outlines, it's more smooth, and it rarely looks like it's actual Flash animation. That is how wonderful detailed this new style is, and I very much appreciate that they went out of their way to change barely anything except give it a new look and feel in terms of how the animation is presented. So that right there was also good. There is a bit of CGI, particularly with Pinky and the Brain in the opening and the lab, so that is a little bit distracting, but thankfully there is some stylization that it doesn't really take me out of it. It's just very weird that they chose that route, given how this show has a considerable bigger budget than something like Teen Titans Go, Powerpuff Girls, and Ben 10, etc., etc. However, nevertheless, everything in it was just clean as fuck. To the music. I really loved these new songs. Again, I am so very happy that they actually brought back the original composers of the original show. So it definitely has that sound and style we all remember from our childhoods, instead of giving it to a new composer who would have just had to try and make it sound like that. No, they went to the people who created that iconic sound. There are some legitimate headbangers, especially with the reboot song, which I do love. Thankfully, the Pinky and the Brain song is virtually the same. It is still sung by the Warners. Now, the opening is also the same, but what you'll notice compared to the original, because this is now new produced music instead of how it was put out in the original, there is a bit of auto-tuning, and you can definitely tell that their pitches are just a little bit higher here than they were before, but none of that is immediately distracting, or is it even something that took me out of the music itself. Also, if you're one of those fans who just loved the political humor in the original Animaniacs, well, don't worry, because these new writers got you covered. The political humor hasn't changed at all. There are some obvious Trump jabs. Of course, hell, I even love the joke that we see with Trump, where we see a Fox News parody just called fake news. I love that. I also love how they just go through all of these presidents that were elected in the past and showing how it led up to what we're currently going through in this new political era. Although, if I must make one complaint, this isn't about the joke itself. It's just, given the election earlier this month, it would have suited this series much better to be released around the time when we were going through the election. Therefore, the jokes would have hit even harder and really hit close to home. But that is just all my opinion, of course. And guys, if you can't tell, I love this new episode. I love this new series. I think they did a great job capturing / embracing the feel of Animaniacs and just overall showing us that while this show is having to now come out and compete with the newer comedies these days, like South Park, Family Guy, so on and so forth, it definitely shows it can stand toe-to-toe with them in terms of its humor, and I'm very excited to see how the rest of this series handles it, and if it manages to keep me guessing on how the jokes will go. So, yes, guys, those are just my non-spoilers. Again, maybe I'll make a second video dedicated to this series, talking about my favorite episodes of it, and I'll also be doing some collaborations with some friends on it, so you have that to look forward to. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and give this episode a solid B+. Everything in it was great, and I can't wait to see the rest of it. So, yeah, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode. Comment down below if you've seen it. Keep it non-spoilerly. And until then, I will see you guys for the next one.
We're zany to the max, there's glory in our slacks. We're Animaniacs, totally insane.